I've been in this game for some 50 years, and I believe that in the next 5 years I will make more money in the stock market than I did in the preceding 50 years combined. And that's because our world is going to change so dramatically as a result of artificial intelligence, machine learning, genome sequencing, genome editing. But in order for that to happen, I have to know which stocks to buy. It's going to be a stock picker's market. So I spend most of my day reading articles from Seeking Alpha, reading books that I buy or listen to from Audible. But I believe it's time well spent because I'm creating what I call my Bus 13 portfolio, and it's all built around what I think artificial intelligence and machine learning is going to provide us in the future. Now, I started with 13 stocks. I'm up to 19 now, and just today I watched a video from the ticker symbol U. I know the presenter. I've met him. I respect him a lot. And he did a wonderful job of explaining NVIDIA and AMD and AMCL. And I want you to watch it. Then he came forward and he suggested that several other stocks would be that of Adobe and Unity. So I spent this morning analyzing Adobe and Unity on this template that I have built, and I want to go over it with you and see if you think that Adobe and Unity deserve a seat on the bus. And by the way, you deserve a seat on the bus, and I invite you to join us.
Best of Us Investors presents Carrie Griegmeyer.
For those of you who didn't see my video yesterday, I shared some pretty astonishing numbers that I thought anyway, that I want to share with you. In 1981, there were 200 people on the internet. By 1990, it was 3 million. In 2023, it's up to 4.9 billion, which represents roughly half of the 7.83 billion people in the world. So this new thing, the internet, the World Wide Web, what it was originally called, has just grown astronomically. The amount of energy that it eats up, and I like to think of it as our highway to the digital world. It needs to be rebuilt because we're going to impact it so heavily with artificial intelligence, machine learning, and the other elements that it's going to bring into our life. So with that in mind, I'm not looking at so much what is ChatGPT going to do, but more at who's going to build this out and who's going to make the profits from building it out. And what we need to look for is those companies who are seeing an increase in their revenue. Now, I recognize that Google and Amazon and Apple and some of the companies that are involved in the whole internet structure, they've known this was going to happen probably about 3 years ago. So if I can go back and see that their revenue is growing, and I want you to really concentrate on this. There's three numbers that are really important in the future success and the future value of a company. And they are revenue, and revenue. You have to have increasing revenue if you're ever going to make profits. If you have decreasing revenue, you're going out of business. We can learn that from a lot of past history, but let's look at the future. As I said, ticker symbol U suggested that I add, not specifically to my portfolio, Adobe and Unity software. And I looked at the numbers, and I want to share them with you so that you get an idea of what I'm doing to build this portfolio of Bus 13. The best stocks that are going to gain from the change in our world. And again, revenue, and revenue. If I don't have revenue, I can't make profits. I can always leverage that revenue to generate more profits. As I grow my business and expand it, I can manipulate that revenue to make it more profitable. Amazon did not make any money, did not show profits for the first 14 years of its existence. The same is true for Netflix, but now they are two of the most profitable companies. You must concentrate on revenue. So let me walk you through my analysis of Unity and Adobe, and I'm going to compare it to Amazon. Okay, this is the Excel spreadsheet that I built to analyze stocks. And I wanted to create a successful stock to get an idea so I could use that as a reference point as to how any future stocks I look like compare. And so I've chosen to use Amazon as my reference stock. And what I'm looking at, this first column here, is income. The amount of income that they have brought to the bottom line since 2013 through 2023. And you can see they were growing leaps and bounds until we hit 2021. 2022 was pretty dismal, and now they're starting to come back. The line I really want you to focus on is revenue. Revenue is, as I said, the driver of all success of any company. You have to have revenue in order to generate profits. How much it costs you to acquire clients, and in Amazon's case, sell merchandise, determines what your profit is, but you first got to have revenue. And you can see Amazon's revenue grows quite handsomely, continuously. And then what I've got here is a projection, and these are numbers that I've got from the most part, from Seeking Alpha, projections of revenue in the future. This line then is that of their stock price. How did their stock price move relative to their income and their revenue? What I look for, quite honestly, is a stock that can generate increases in revenues by 20%. There's only about, in any given year on the S&P 500, there's probably less than 10% companies that can generate a 20% growth in revenue. And you can see Amazon has been very successful in doing it until they got to after the pandemic. And as you can see, they're going to get in the 10% and above from 24 to 27. So with that understanding, then let's look at Adobe. Adobe has been quite successful, and again, looking at their revenues, they were growing at 2%, 15%, and then they started getting into that 20%. This is the magical number that you want to see a company achieve. Dropped down a bit in 2020, got back to 22%, and now are in the double digits as they move forward. So as I'm looking at this and saying, and what I've come to know, because I use Adobe Photoshop and Adobe Rush, what they're going to bring is, just from artificial intelligence, is quite astounding. So I'm going to watch to see if these numbers are maybe a little shy. I know that for my own personal use, I'll start using Adobe more in the future than I am. So I got to judge that that 12% growth might be a little bit light. Okay, so I'm interested in Adobe. It's on my watch list. I'm not going to put it into my Bus 13 portfolio at this time. I'm more focused on those people who are going to build out the new World Wide Web that is needed for us to move forward with artificial intelligence and genome and general intelligence. Then I went to Unity. Unity Software is a nonprofit organization at this point. So for my Bus 13 portfolio, it can't enter. That is one of the requirements that I want a company with a PE ratio. And it doesn't have one because it doesn't have any earnings. As you can see, its earnings have all been negative, and the reality is they are growing. The size of their losses are growing. But let's look at their revenues. You can see some astronomical growth in revenues here as they have moved into 2020 through 2023. Their projected revenues are not as strong as they have been in the past, but nonetheless, if I were allowing companies that were not going to, were non-profitable onto the bus, this would be a speculative stock that I certainly would consider. I want you to recognize, and I'm going to repeat this over and over, the number one number is not profitability. That can come. It's revenue. Netlist and Google each went about 14, 15 years since their IPO and not showing a profit, not bringing money in. What puzzles me a bit is though they have been generating some free cash flow, quite sizable. This apparently, it is called leveraged free cash flow. So that tells me it's involved in some sign of they've been able to borrow some money to get cash to make further investments in their company to then continue to grow their revenue in the future. So that's how I go about it. I also wanted to just share. I also track any insider buying and selling. Again, I'm looking for growth in operating margins. As you can see, the gross margin for Unity is 67%, but they lose about 60% on everything that they sell. And this is also on Adobe. Their gross margins are 87%, and they bring to the bottom line, about 26%. Look at this on Amazon, though, a 44% markup, but what they bring to the bottom line is less than 1%. But I guess they're making their money on volume. When I worked for Polaroid, that's what we always said. The retailer would make their money on volume. Then the other things I look at, growth in free cash flow, stability of management, growth of earnings outpacing that of the S&P, monitor their quarterly earnings, and read their annual report. What we focus on is their total addressable market. It's like anything else. If you build a strong business and you've saturated your addressable market and you have no way to grow it, well, then you become stagnant. You can't grow any further. So how you will recognize if they are growing their addressable market is their revenues will grow. There's only two or three ways to increase your revenues. They are to expand your TAM, your total addressable market, to increase your prices, or to add products to your line. That's how Amazon has been so successful that they reinvent themselves on a regular basis. So with that in mind, I'd be interested in your comments on Adobe as an addition and your comments on Unity Software as a speculative stock. But that's how I go about analyzing stocks. That's how I think I will be successful in building a portfolio that yields me greater profits in the next 5 years than I have made in the preceding 50 years of investing in the stock market. This is an investment opportunity if you understand it. If you understand the whole World Wide Web has to be rebuilt. And that's what I'm searching to put into my Bus 13 stocks.